I have been gaming ever since I left the womb. I experienced many game franchises over the years and a variety of different genres. Some games I liked and some games I didn't, and all of that shaped my current taste in games. While there are a lot of different games I would like to try but can't because of hardware limitations, there's always been one game franchise which I always wanted to play but never did. The Stalker franchise is one which I'm sure a lot of us heard of and possibly even played, but even though I always wanted to play it, I never did. It wasn't a hardware limitation or anything, I just never got around to it. So when a friend asked me to make a video on it, I instantly took up the request. Fun fact, this video is actually supposed to be on Nier Automata, but 2B decided to become a fighter jet.
Alert. Large enemy group detected.
Oh my god! The Stalker franchise is an action RPG developed by the studio GSC Games World, with the first installment in the franchise being Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. I'll be playing this game, by the way. It came out in 2007 and was very well received among reviewers, but because of its release date, it was mostly overshadowed by Fallout 3, which released in 2008 and sold 7 times the copies of it. The entire franchise in total sold around 10 billion copies, while Fallout 3 alone topped that number. The game is set after the events of the Chernobyl nuclear reactor meltdown, if you couldn't have already figured that out from the title alone. It's the typical society's fell and everything is a war zone post-apocalyptic setting. But without further ado, grab your vodka, crank up that hard bass, and let's start the show. As it is with these old games, the first thing I had to do was crank all the settings, including the resolution. After cranking everything to the highest setting possible, I pressed new game, was given all the different difficulty names. There's Novice, Stalker, Veteran, Master, and Back. Instinctively, I chose Stalker because that looked like the normal difficulty, but I should have chosen Novice for reasons I'll get into later. We open up with a cutscene of a truck loaded with dead bodies driving in the middle of a storm. The truck gets struck by lightning and explodes. We fast forward what I guess is a day because there's a guy searching all the bodies and one of them is still alive. That's us, by the way. He grabs us and takes us to a trader who is very surprised to hear that we're alive.
This is a live one. Bullshit. You're lying.
There's also a mention of us having the Mark, which is a tattoo we have on us. As we're getting searched, we have our phone taken off us and we wake up so he doesn't check our history. Luckily for us, the only thing our phone had was a text saying kill the S.T.A.L.K.E.R. After this scene, we instantly get thrown into the game and what the fuck is that? Kill it, kill it. We wake up with amnesia and this guy gives us a task to do so we can get even with him for saving us. He runs us through the PDA and we have a good bit of tabs here. We have our typical map in the tasks tab, but we also have a contacts tab. This shows all the NPCs in a 30-meter radius and shows us what group they're in, including their reputation and their attitude towards us and how experienced they are. This is a cool feature to have in an RPG game, but it is fundamentally useless and you'll never use it. Throughout my entire playthrough, I don't think I opened it even once. But even though you have all these tabs, out of all of them, you'll only ever need to use one. We are told to get information off a scout, which has been captured by bandits. This is our first introduction to combat, and I would usually talk about the combat here, but there's a lot more to talk about it, so I'll get onto it later. For now, I'll just mention that the handgun combat is absolute dog shit. We go back to this monstrosity, and he asks us to recover some military documents for him. At this point, we're free to do whatever in the game world, and the game world is so well made. There's a lot of foliage around, and animals roam around freely, giving the world a good bit of life. Also, this animal AI is so fucking good. They will rush you at times, but just firing some bullets at them will cause them to circle back around and refrain from attacking you. To get to my next objective, I had to go through a tunnel which looked to have electricity blocking my way. I said fuck it and full sended my way through like a true Russian and promptly died. I loaded my save back up and oh no, this game doesn't have auto-saving, but it has a saving indicator at the bottom right, so what is this for? God only knows, so I learned my lesson and speedran everything until I got back to where I was. I saw some people with machine guns, so I took my chance to get my hand on one of them, but I was relatively quickly shot down. I couldn't figure out how to get past this thing, so I once again full sended it and surprisingly it worked. I found a guy who was injured on the ground. I talked to him and he wanted a medkit. Sorry bro, I just used it on myself after getting fucked up by Zeus. See ya loser. I made my way to get the military documents and caught myself an SMG. I got into a few gunfights on my way there and no, I'm not going to talk about the combat yet. I came across some people getting shot up by the military at a factory, so I helped them out and got myself an AK. The guys I saved led me into an underground tunnel system where S.T.A.L.K.E.R used to have a hideout, and there I encountered my first monster. What the fuck? I cleared out all the enemies, got lost, encountered a monster whose power is sending you for a hearing check IRL, found S.T.A.L.K.E.R's USB and I didn't know what to do with it. You would assume that the guy who sent me into the tunnels would want it, but he wasn't even there. So logically, I went back to the person that helped me at the start of the game, but he didn't want to do anything with it either. I ended up looking up a guide and what I had to do was completely ignore the USB and get the military documents. So I went there and I'll finally talk about the combat. This is one of the most difficult games I have ever played. The gunplay feels nice enough, but that's not including the pistols since they have as much recoil as a Desert Eagle. But the enemies have so much health and deal so much damage, it's insane. Like, what are they taking? Oh, That explains it. Headshots deal significantly more damage, but the hitboxes are so fucked that they won't even register half the time. But there is one mechanic which I didn't expect in this game. Your guns can jam. The only other game I've ever seen this mechanic in was Far Cry 2, and while that game had cool animations, in this game your gun would just stop firing. I would have really liked this mechanic if only this game wasn't so fucking difficult. Ammo is also really sparse, at least in the first half of the game. You'll be running from body to body trying to scrounge up enough ammo to fight the next guy. Just like in every other RPG game, you heal by using consumables. You can either use medkits or eat food to regenerate your health, so you'll be crouching behind cover, eating your sausages until you have enough health to kill the guy and use their ammo. Honestly, at this point in the game, I contemplated whether or not I should just quit this game and record a different one. But with enough time and dedication, I got the documents and had to bring them to a person called Barkeep. This guy doubles as a trader, which I was really happy to see because I could finally buy some ammo. The traders in this game are super underused and probably one of my least favorite parts of the game. As far as I know, there are only 2 traders in this game, which is a really big negative. I wish they had more of these scattered throughout the game because it makes having a currency system in this game nearly pointless. Barkeep tells us to get some X-18 documents. I got shot up by the guards for absolutely no reason on my way out. I got to the facility and had to enter through a sewage system and got lost here again because any reasonable person would have went straight and not looked directly left. Had to look up a guide here because I was having far too much difficulty. Thank you Matthew from GameStop, I love you so much. I went into the underground facility and oh, did I mention that this game has horror mechanics? It isn't too scary, but the atmosphere and sounds that you hear while walking around this entirely empty facility are terrifying. This game has a similar atmosphere to Subnautica. Maybe not to the same extent, but it gets pretty close. You don't know what is around the corner and you're constantly expecting something to be there, but every time there's nothing. Just sounds. It makes you feel uneasy and that's what I expect from a good horror game. Gold star to you, Stalker. I grabbed the documents, fight a ghost, experience a cutscene of a guy doing what I presume is mowing down a bunch of rats, fight some more people and for fuck's sakes I'm lost again. I return to Barkeep, give him the documents and for fuck's sakes I have to get more documents. I entered a new town, consulted the guide again because I keep getting fucking lost, came across some zombies. Didn't expect that in this game but I'm all for surprises. And on my way to my next objective I experienced something beautiful. It was getting dark and I was running past a small group of people hiding out for the night. I didn't think much of this, but then I heard a guitar start playing and this was my turning point for the game. While it has been the most frustrating and confusing game I have played in a long time, this world has so much personality. While in Fallout you'd be walking past a mostly destroyed and empty landscape, this game world is crowded with people trying to survive. Everything they do seems reasonable and human-like, from shaking people down for loot to having a talk with their comrades. It all feels real and this quickly changed my opinion on the game. It is one of the best games I've ever played, just because of the world alone. Nevertheless, let's get on with this video. I went to see a scientist which had a special suit which would help me enter the place where the next documents were being kept. I was supposed to escort a guy to help me recover them, but then he had a death wish and started opening fire on the zombies and proceeded to get mowed down. This isn't the only time I experienced horrible companion AI, but I'll get to that. I battled it out with some more people and entered another underground facility where I shut down something which was about to kill me. I have no clue what it was, but it seemed important because there was a timer. Experienced another cutscene which I have no clue what it told me about the story. Grabbed the documents off a dead body, got lost again, left the facility, gave the documents to Barkeep, and we were off to disable something called the Brain Scorcher. It sounded important, so I went ahead and did it. I turned off the Brain Scorcher, had another cutscene about something. I genuinely learned nothing from these cutscenes, by the way. You'd expect them to give some kind of backstory, but they're all so all over the place that it made it really hard to follow along. After this cutscene, I had some voice tell me something and was given a mission to find the Wish Granter in Chernobyl. This was obviously the final mission because, you know, it's in Chernobyl. I left the facility and made a beeline to Chernobyl. I was going to be cutting through Pripyat, and apparently that place was so dangerous I had some power armor looking guys escort me. And this was when I realized that the companion AI is absolutely fucking brain dead. They would take 2 steps forward and wait there like a bunch of morons. They escorted me through Pripyat, and for fuck's sakes I forgot to save. They escorted me through Pripyat like cripples on even more crippled wheelchairs, and I finally entered Chernobyl and made a run for the nuclear reactor where I was meant to be headed. Once I got into the power plant, I had some fucking guy keep moaning into my ears in Russian. I don't even think I have to mention how annoying this was. I battled it out with some soldiers and found the Wish Granter, which I presume was in the melted nuclear reactor core. I don't think I even have to explain how dead our main character is right now. We get to the Wish Granter, and as the name implies, we can get our wish granted to us. We wish for the zone to disappear and we get our wish granted to us. While we are basking in the sunlight, our main character opens his eyes for us to find that he has blank white eyes, and that's the end of our story. How would I rate my experience with Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl? It was one of the most frustrating and difficult games I have ever played. There were so many difficulty spikes which would put me on the verge of tears. From all my years in gaming, I don't think I experienced such a difficult single player game like this. The story in the game is really poor in most places, but it could be that I experienced one of the worst endings since the game apparently has 7 different endings. I also don't think this game should be played for the story since it's the type of RPG where you build your own story and tell your own experiences with it. I can't help but feel like my playthrough felt unique to other players. From myself getting lost in the terrifying underground to experiencing really difficult gunfights, I felt like my playthrough was like no one else's, and that's an amazing sign. But while this game might be extremely difficult and frustrating, it all made up in its atmosphere. I would be lying if I said that this game didn't get me immersed in the world. With such a well-crafted world and such a populated one for that, you can't help but feel like you're there. By the time I finished this game, it became one of my favorite games I've ever played. If you're looking for a great atmosphere and an RPG where you shape your own story, I highly recommend this game. Maybe try go for a different ending since I know there are 7 of them. If you yourself played this game, tell me your story and experience with this game in the comments below. This is probably going to be the only time where I'm actually really interested to see how your playthrough went. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and check out some of my other videos. If you liked them, feel free to subscribe, and if you didn't like this video, feel free to press that dislike button twice to show how much you hate it. Peace.